Welcome to Male Choices. Ever notice how some people are still out there partying like it's high school while the clock is ticking? Today, we're calling out the endless cycle of fun and games that only ends with a harsh reality check. Because when you spend your prime years chasing temporary thrills, don't be surprised when life hits back with a dose of reality. Make sure to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you get the unfiltered truth delivered to you every day.
So you're almost 40, yes. And you've never been married? No. And you don't have kids? No. And you don't want to have kids? No. What have you done with your life? Well...
So let's talk about the 39-year-old who's out there bragging about her world travels, best-selling books, and a life lived without kids or a husband. She's out there patting herself on the back, thinking she's won the game of life. But here's the cold, hard truth. While she's been busy chasing transient experiences and collecting Instagram-worthy moments, she's missed the foundational aspects of life that give it real meaning. Sure, it's easy to be proud of a life without commitments when you're in your prime, but let's see how that self-satisfaction holds up when the thrill of living freely turns into the harsh reality of loneliness. When the applause fades and the travels are a distant memory, who will be there to share the quiet moments? When she's old and looking back, it won't be the selfies and travel blogs that keep her company. It'll be the absence of those she chose not to invest in. A reality check that no amount of worldly success can counter.
Just an update from your 35-year-old best friend in Brooklyn. I actually agree with Max's comment here. Women do hit the wall around 30. Yeah, we've actually been dating so much and we've done so much work on ourselves that we've hit the wall of dating immature, emotionally unavailable, patriarchal, and misogynistic, close-minded men. Yeah, we're really looking forward to emotionally available partners who can support us and we can support them. So yeah, I'm so glad that, word is...
A woman blaming her wall moment on dating immature, emotionally unavailable, and misogynistic men. Here's the harsh truth she needs to hear. If you're continuously ending up with the same kind of partner, it's not just about the men you're choosing, it's about your own choices and judgment. You can't keep picking the worst options and then act surprised when things don't turn out as planned. It's easy to point fingers and complain about the men who didn't meet your expectations, but let's get real here. The common denominator in all these failed relationships is you. If you're attracted to patriarchal and misogynistic men, maybe you should ask yourself why that's the case. Is it possible that you're drawn to these types because they reflect something deeper about your own choices and self-perception? Blaming others for your problems is a sign of weakness and denial. True growth comes from taking a hard look at your own role in these relationships and learning from your mistakes. So instead of whining about the men who didn't work out, maybe it's time to stop being a victim and start being a chooser. Recognize the patterns, understand why you're making these choices, and make the changes necessary to attract something better. The real issue isn't the men you've dated, it's your own lack of self-awareness and accountability. Until you face that, you'll just keep hitting the same wall over and over.
Open my comments to validate the point I just made. It's like they're giving my handle a whole new layer, Oh, I may end up 35 and single? So what? You think that's a threat? That being single is inherently negative? That a woman's life only has value if she reproduces? I'd rather die alone 10 times over than end up with a man who has those values. Needless to say, there are plenty of people who get married after 35. There are plenty of people who have been married and end up single at 35. There are plenty of people who are married and miserable at 35. Because just like gender or sexuality, your marital status should not be an indicator of your quality of life or your overall worth as a human being. And this is the bullshit that women no longer have to accept. We no longer have to be someone's daughter or someone's wife or someone's mother to make our way in the world and to matter. And that really pisses these men off. Not to mention that single and childless women are statistically the happiest demographic in our society. So the next time a man with 15 followers and no profile pic wants to threaten me with that, bring it, bitch.
All right, let's break down this latest gem from our self-proclaimed feminist philosopher. She's out there proudly declaring that being single at 35, with no desire for a relationship, is some sort of badge of honour. She's convinced that her value isn't tied to traditional roles, and that being single is just as good, if not better, than being in a committed relationship. But here's the reality check. This isn't about empowerment. It's about delusion. she's essentially saying that a life without a partner or children is just as valuable as one with them. Newsflash. The notion that marital status or having kids is irrelevant to your worth is a convenient excuse for not facing the reality of loneliness and missed opportunities. Sure, you can find a bunch of studies or anecdotal evidence to back up your claim, but the truth is much more nuanced. Living a life solely dedicated to yourself and your personal choices might sound liberating when you're 35 and still in your prime, but let's see how that perspective holds up when you're older and looking back. The real test is not whether you're okay with being single now, but how you handle it when you're facing the long nights alone and realizing that the social validation you're so proud of doesn't fill the void of genuine human connection. And let's be honest, calling out men with 15 followers and no profile pic, as if they're the source of all your problems, is just a weak deflection. The real issue here isn't the men who criticize you, it's your refusal to acknowledge the very real consequences of your lifestyle choices. Embracing a life without traditional milestones is one thing, but pretending it's the only path to true happiness is just another form of self-deception.
I'm 32 years old. That means I've hit the wall 2 years ago, and my life has been amazing. Best 2 years. I'm Chinese. We love walls.
So you hit the wall at 32 and think it's a victory because your life is amazing. And you toss in a joke about loving walls? I don't even know what to say. Maybe you should focus less on celebrating hitting the wall and more on whether your so-called amazing life is as fulfilling as you claim. Walls are great, but they don't exactly make for a dynamic future.
Y'all, don't let nobody convince you that having a baby over 35 is something that is wrong or something that you should rush and do in your 20s. Now, I have to agree with you. I was much more energetic, I would say, in my 20s. But after 35, having a baby after 35, the wisdom, the knowledge that you know that you need to take care of yourself as well as your baby, access to things that your baby needs, being able to pick out a partner that is right for your baby and right for your family after 35. If you've lived a little, girl, don't let nobody convince you that you have to run out here and have babies before you turn 30. Either way, it's your choice, but I'm here to tell you.
We've got a woman here saying that having a baby after 35 is perfectly fine, and in some ways even better, thanks to wisdom and knowledge. Sure, I'll give her that. Being older can bring some advantages like life experience and a better sense of what you want in a partner and a family. But here's the kicker. While wisdom and stability are great, they don't change the basic reality of biology. The clock is ticking, and pretending otherwise doesn't make the challenges disappear. It's one thing to have the wisdom to raise a child well, but another to ignore the increased risks and limitations that come with being an older parent. It's like saying you're totally ready to run a marathon after years of sitting on the couch because you've read all the best training books. You might know how to train smarter, but you're still working against years of inactivity. The biological facts don't magically adjust to your personal timeline just because you're older and wiser. So, while I respect her optimism, let's not ignore the reality check. Time waits for no one, and no amount of wisdom can fully erase the impact of waiting too long. It's important to face these facts head-on, rather than sugarcoating the challenges with feel-good talk. So sure the guy will enjoy his brief moment of fame, or should I say flame, with your audience of over 30 women partying all night and day. I mean, seriously, does anyone else get that cringe-worthy feeling just looking at the videos? It's almost as if the more someone tries to convince themselves they're living their best life, the more you can see the cracks in their carefully curated facade. Let's get real for a second. If you're pushing 30, or even beyond, and you're still rolling solo with no significant other in sight, then there's a good chance your life has been anything but fulfilling. And you know what? I actually feel a bit of pity for you. Think about it. When you're lying there alone at night, with nothing but the silence to keep you company, how does it really feel? You might tell yourself that you're free and independent, but deep down, when the lights are out and the noise of the day has faded, there's a stark reality to face. It's in those quiet moments when nobody's around and the only thing echoing in your head is the hollow sound of your own thoughts that the true weight of your situation hits you. You might try to dress it up with positive affirmations and motivational speeches, but the truth is, being alone at that stage in life isn't exactly a trophy. It's like this. You can try to spin it any way you want, but no amount of self-praise can erase the fact that if you've spent most of your adult life without a significant other, there's something missing. And I'm not talking about a missing piece of a puzzle. I'm talking about a void that's hard to ignore. You can't keep brushing off the reality that, while you're busy selling yourself on the idea that you're better off alone, the emptiness that comes with those lonely nights is a very real and very uncomfortable truth. So while you're out there trying to convince everyone, including yourself, that your life is just perfect, remember this. There's no hiding from the raw honesty of solitude. And sometimes, the most painful truth is the one you're trying hardest to avoid. It's time to face that reality head on and stop pretending that being alone is somehow a badge of honor. It's not. It's a clear sign that something went off track along the way, and no amount of self-delusion is going to change that fact.
Oh, hey guys. Hey, listen, this message is only for women over 35. If you're under 35, keep scrolling. All right, we don't have a lot of time. I hope they left. Listen, I want to show you something real quick. In medicine, we have chronic medical conditions and we have risk factors, and we take those into consideration when treating a patient. Some of the risk factors are modifiable, some of the risk factors are non-modifiable. If you notice up top, those are the modifiable risk factors: diet, exercise, eat fruits, vegetables, yada yada, right? Then you have the non-modifiable risk factors, which are like your family history, your age. Those are hard stops. We understand there's nothing we can do about those. So what we do is we work with you on the modifiable risk factors, because we say, even taking into consideration your non-modifiable, if we could fix the modifiable, we could help you to have a more positive outcome. What's my point? If you are over 35, that is a non-modifiable risk factor. There's nothing that no one can say to make you feel bad about a non-modifiable risk factor. It's not your fault. You can't do anything about it. And if you had a couple kids by a couple of different guys, do not ever allow anyone to make you feel uncomfortable about a non-modifiable risk factor. The next thing, hey, anyone ever had like their dinner leftover from the day before? That's when the seasons and the juices and everything, leftovers are something. Look, if I had a choice of fresh food or leftovers, I'd rather take leftovers. I know you ain't offended because someone called you left. That's a compliment. You should say thank you. Why am I going through all this? Because I have inherited some of Kevin Samuel's followers. And man, welcome to the family. And you're more than welcome to stay. If you just want to be a bigger, better person from the inside out, welcome to the platform. But if you want to be in the valley of pessimism, I'm probably not the place for you. Keep scrolling, undelete, unfollow, just move on, okay? And you feel free to leave me a negative comment. And if I see it, I'll delete it, which normally I don't see it. And if I do delete it, it's not because it hurt. I deleted it for the same reason I flushed the toilet after I go number 2. I just don't want my house thinking.
Finally, we've got a woman dishing out advice for those over 35, telling them to focus on what they can control because age is a non-modifiable factor. Sure, I get it. Taking care of your health and managing what you can is important, and I'll give her some credit there. But let's not kid ourselves. Hitting the wall at 35 isn't just about managing risk factors. It's about facing some hard truths. She's talking about focusing on diet and exercise like it's some magical formula to turn back the clock. While staying healthy is definitely a smart move, it doesn't change the fact that once you've hit the wall, you're dealing with a reality check that's a lot tougher than just eating your veggies. It's like trying to patch up a ship with a leak. It might help a bit, but it won't stop the sinking. She also makes this weird analogy about leftovers versus fresh food, trying to frame it as a compliment. Newsflash. Calling someone, leftovers isn't exactly a flattering metaphor. It's a nice way of saying that what's left might be second-rate compared to what's fresh, and that's the thing. No matter how well you take care of yourself, if you're past your prime, the harsh reality is that you're dealing with the leftovers of your youth. So, yeah, taking care of yourself is crucial, but let's not pretend it erases the fact that hitting the wall at 35 means you're navigating life with some significant baggage. You can manage the risks and improve what you can, but that doesn't change the fact that the clock's still ticking, and the challenges you face are part of a bigger, unavoidable picture.